A prediction market contract is trading at 65 cents. The crowd is basically saying there is a 65% chance this happens. But is that actually true? Is a 65-cent price really a 65% probability, or just a number that looks like one? Almost everyone treats these prices as gospel, and almost nobody checks. So we did. We pulled 775 markets that have already resolved and measured with our own data exactly how often the crowd was right. Quick disclosure first. I hold no positions here. This is research and not advice. And every number you will see is pulled from live public data and dated on screen. And what we found surprised me. In aggregate, the crowd is almost eerily accurate. But the second you look closer, it splits into signal you can lean on and noise dressed up to look like it. So let us separate the two. So let us ground ourselves first, because this whole space confuses people for a reason. A prediction market is just a place where you buy a little contract that pays you $1 if some event happens, and nothing if it does not. That is the entire mechanic. So when a contract trades at 65 cents, the crowd is effectively saying, we think there is about a 65% chance. Now, there are two big venues, and they are really not the same animal. Kalshi is the regulated one, a U.S. exchange overseen by a regulator called the CFTC. It settles in plain dollars, and most of its activity is sports. Polymarket is the bigger, crypto-native one. It lives mostly offshore. It settles on a blockchain using a dollar-pegged coin called USDC. And here's the part I love. You can read every bit of its data for free, without even making an account. Underneath Polymarket sits a referee called UMA, a decentralized oracle whose job is to decide how each question officially resolves. And sitting over the whole thing now is the regulator, because, and we will come back to this, the CFTC stepped in this past February, which leaves us one simple question. When is that price actually true, and when is it a number wearing a costume? So let us put it to the test. Okay, so does this actually work? This is the thing everybody asserts and almost nobody verifies. So we verified it ourselves. We took 775 Polymarket markets that resolved in the last few weeks, and for each one, we grabbed the price a full day before it settled. Not the final value, the genuine prediction while the outcome was still unknown. And then we asked the simplest question you can ask. When the market said 30%, did the thing actually happen about 30% of the time? And yeah, it basically did. The market's price near 5% came true less than 1% of the time. The 30-cent markets landed right around 31. The 50/50s came in at 52. There is a formal score for this. It is called calibration error, and ours came out to about 1.5 points, meaning on average the crowd's price missed the real frequency by less than 2 cents. And here's the part that sealed it for me. That number lands almost exactly on what the big independent trackers report, around 0.08 on something called a Brier score. So 3 completely separate measurements all agree. In aggregate, and please hold on to that phrase, in aggregate, the crowd's price genuinely is a probability, which would be a tidy, happy ending, except it is not the whole truth, not even close. Because here is where it gets genuinely interesting. That beautiful calibration is an average, and averages hide things. So we split the very same markets up by category, and the picture flips in a way I honestly did not expect. The best behaved markets are the boring ones. Crypto price bets. Will Bitcoin be above some level by Friday? Those were almost perfectly calibrated, off by barely 2 points. Weather, same story. They are objective, they settle fast, and there is nothing to argue about. But the exciting markets? The novelty stuff. Will someone say a certain word? How many times will somebody tweet? Those were off by 17 points, and they consistently overpriced the fun outcome because people bet on what they want to happen. not on what is likely. So calibration is not really a property of prediction markets at all. It is a property of the question you are asking. And there is a second twist that matters even more if you are using this seriously. We grouped Polymarket's $7 billion of live volume, and nearly half of it sits in just two buckets: world elections and soccer. The macro and the crypto questions you would actually want to lean on for real decisions. Bitcoin is barely 1% of the volume. So the markets are deepest precisely where a serious user needs them least, and thinnest right where the big money questions live. That is not a flaw to be angry about. It is just the shape of the thing. And knowing the shape, that is the edge. So let us talk about the catches, honestly, because this is what separates using the signal from getting used by it. First, liquidity. We scanned every open Kalshi market, over 1,800 showing live two-sided quotes, and only about 12% had actually traded. The rest are ghost towns, a price sitting there that nobody is backing with real money. And even where they trade, the gap between the buy and sell quote averaged 21 cents, twice as wide in the thinnest markets. So a number in a dead market is not a probability, it is a placeholder. Second, contamination. And my favorite example is real, I promise. The single biggest Polymarket market by all-time volume is, will Jesus return before 2027? $63 million of lifetime volume, priced at 2 cents, but only 750,000 in live liquidity. That one contract stacks three traps at once: the volume illusion, long shot bias, and time value, because your cash is locked until 2027. And the third catch, the one most coverage skips: insider trading. This February, the CFTC said plainly that insider rules apply to these contracts. Real cases: a candidate who bet on his own race, an editor who traded ahead of his own videos, and an offshore wallet that made around $400,000 right before a foreign leader was captured. Now, none of that means the markets are rigged. Honestly, the regulator showing up is a sign the space is growing up. It just means when a thin market jumps and there is no news to explain it, you flag it, you do not chase it. So after all of that, is the crowd's price useful or not? And the answer is a confident yes, with a discipline attached. But one last lens: ask who set the price you are about to trust. You have met all four crowds now. Sports fans trading for fun, that is where the favorite long shot habit lives. Crypto natives, our best calibrated category. Institutions, around 40% of the volume on the regulated venue now, so the serious money already treats this as a real signal. And the occasional insider you just learned to flag. Same screen, 4 levels of trust. And everything we measured today collapses into a 5-second test you can run before you ever quote a number. 1. Does it actually trade? Real volume, tight quotes. 2. Is it objective and near term? The kind of question that settles in days, not years. 3. Is it the right category? Trust crypto, sports, and weather. Discount the novelty markets and the thin political ones. 4. Is there an insider fingerprint? A sharp move with no news behind it. And 5. Do the two big platforms actually agree? Because when they do not, that gap is itself a piece of information. Clear all 5, and you have got something genuinely valuable. A fast, free, always-on probability that in aggregate is as accurate as we just verified it to be. Fail any one, and you do not throw the signal away. You just demote it from a source of truth down to a sanity check. And the best part, you can run this whole pipeline yourself for free. Find the market, pull the live price from the order book, check it actually trades, strip out the junk, and read it as a range. No terminal required. So here is the one thing to walk away with. Do not use a prediction market price to replace your own forecast. Use it to sharpen it. Quote a range, never a single hard number, and let the crowd be one smart voice in the room, not the only one. That discipline right there, that is the real edge. So where does that leave us? We started with a simple question. Is a 65-cent contract really a 65% chance? And instead of guessing, we count it. And the honest answer is genuinely useful. In aggregate, yes, the crowd is remarkably well calibrated. We measured it ourselves at about a 1.5-point error, matching the independent trackers almost exactly. But that average hides the more useful truth. The signal is excellent in deep, objective, near-term markets, and it gets noisy or simply disappears, right where the biggest questions live. So treat it like any good data source. Powerful, free, and worth respecting, as long as you know which prices to trust and which are just numbers in a costume. Use it to sharpen your own view, never to outsource it. Everything we showed is live, public data, dated on screen, so you can run it yourself. And honestly, you should. If this was useful, do me a favor and subscribe. Information in Motion is where we pull the real data and actually show our work. No hype, no shilling, just the numbers and what they really mean. There's a full written breakdown linked below with every source. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.